Well, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to another in our monthly Lunch and Learn series. Today, we're going to be talking about mastering Microsoft Teams. Now, before we jump into our live demonstration, where I'm going to share some basic tips around Teams and also some advanced things as well, we'll also look at the new version of Microsoft Teams. I just want to very briefly discuss, for the benefit of those who aren't as familiar with Teams, what Microsoft Teams is all about. Is Teams just another meeting tool? Well, the answer to that is no. According to Microsoft, Teams is a messaging app and it is a workspace area. So it enables you to have real-time collaboration and communication, meetings, whether they be audio or video-based, and also sharing of files that you're working on and sharing, and applications as well. So certainly Teams is not just another meeting tool. In fact, there are different versions of Teams you may or may not know about. Let me just bring up a slide onto my screen here. Okay, hopefully you can see this. You'll see that there are, and this is just a snip from Microsoft's website, there are different versions of Teams. And what's not showing on this slide is the Home edition. And Microsoft are good at this, confusing people with different versions, but we're looking at the business versions here. You'll see there's a free version of Teams that you can use. I'm not expecting you to read the small ticks underneath, but the idea is just to convey the idea that there is more than just one edition. And with each increasing edition, then there are more features or better features to make the tool more useful to you and your organization. So there is an essentials plan. I have to say, out of the hundreds of businesses we support, I don't have a single customer who uses Teams Essential. Instead, most people use Microsoft Teams as part of their Microsoft 365 business subscription. So whether that be Business Basic, Business Standard, which you can see on screen there, and even Business Premium, which is not shown there, Teams is included along with all the functionality that you need to work. But there's also an additional version of Teams, not mentioned here as well, called Teams Premium. And Teams Premium takes the new artificial intelligence stuff that Microsoft's doing and integrates that into Teams to give you some really versatile functionality to take away the heavy lifting out of managing meetings and so forth. So automatic note-taking, automatic meeting summary notes at the end of the meeting. If someone's talking in a different language and the captions that you're using in there, automatic captions, they can be translated. You can brand your meetings and your environment. If you're in a certain industry where you have regular appointments with people virtually, for instance, healthcare, you can have a virtual appointment system with a lobby and SMS reminders to remind people of their upcoming appointment. There's also data protection and data safety features in Teams Premium as well. Now, what we're focusing on this afternoon is the business edition, which is the vast majority of what most of you and many of our customers are using. Okay, so let me just jump back to my notes here. I'm going to run a quick poll. Let me turn off the screen share. I'm going to run a quick poll because clearly there's a lot more to Teams than just online meetings, but it's true, I'm sure you'll agree, Teams can be a bit tricky to use. And we get a lot of people comment that, you know, joining a meeting with Teams or setting up a meeting with Teams is way more painful than perhaps using something like Zoom. Now, let me just put a poll out there to see what is your preferred meeting tool. Now, if I can make this work. Let's launch this poll. Okay, hopefully you can see a question on screen. What's your preferred online meeting platform? Do you use Microsoft Teams? Do you use Zoom? Do you use GoToMeeting, WebEx, or do you prefer something else? I'm not asking what do you use every day. What do you actually prefer using? And I can see the results coming in now, and encouragingly, okay, they're still changing. We'll just give it a few more seconds while the rest of you vote. Okay, that's interesting. All right, so the suspense is killing you, clearly. Let me end the poll just to keep the things moving forward and share the results with you on screen. Hopefully you can see this on screen now. You'll see that actually a good percentage of our audience do prefer using Microsoft Teams, and that's because you're coming from organizations that are using Microsoft on a daily basis. But also we see Zoom up there as well. And I think no one knew what Zoom was 4 years ago. And then March 2020, we were all using it on a daily basis. So clearly, we've all got used to that friction-free way that Zoom works, getting into meetings easily, just need a simple passcode and you're in. The point being, let me stop sharing these results. The point being that clearly they're the two dominant platforms out there based on the results of that small survey. But Zoom is effectively a one-trick pony. It does meetings, it does them very well. Teams can do a whole lot more. So I do understand for those that prefer Zoom. And sometimes, I personally find Zoom easier to use for the purpose of meetings, especially for someone else who is not a Teams user. It's easier to use Zoom. But there are reasons why Teams should be used and can be used, but really you have to pick the right tool for what works for you and for people you're collaborating with and your customers. So we're going to jump into a live demonstration now because we want to keep this moving quickly. Our audience is varied, and we're going to cover some basic functions and some advanced stuff as well that's come out recently. Let me just do another screen share here. Okay, hopefully you can see this. It should be able to see my Windows 11 desktop here. So I'm going to jump in straight away into Microsoft Teams, and you'll see I've got it running down here on my taskbar. It's already logged in and shows that I'm away. That's because I've been inactive in there. I've also got it on my taskbar down here as a shortcut. If I click on that, this is the Teams interface. Now, if you're not familiar with Teams or haven't used it much, we'll just do a very quick overview of what we can see here. In the top right corner, you can see my business name, Extreme Training, and my initials here. So I'm logged in with a user called John Smith. Okay. On the left-hand side, we're going to focus today on the top three icons that are here: Chat, Teams, and Calendar. So very quickly, let's look at Chat. If I click into Chat here, this is the messaging part of Teams. This is where you can chat to individuals inside your organization, but also outside your organization as well. So for instance, if I click on Fred here, who's an employee in Extreme Training, you can see a conversation, one-way conversation that's been going on there. And it's very simple to chat. You just click into the box at the bottom here to type a new message, and we put in here, "Hi, Fred." And all I've got to do is then either press enter on my keyboard or press the send key. Little tip, if you want to add more lines without typing more, if you press shift enter on the keyboard, you'll insert a blank line and you can carry on typing your message there. Now, while we're in there and chatting, you'll notice we can do a number of things around formatting. So if I can click on the formatting button here, we'll come back to these in a bit more detail shortly. Let's send my message. And as quick as that, my message has gone to Fred. And I can see the little tick there. It's a bit like WhatsApp. I can see it's been sent, and I can also see when Fred has read the message. Okay. While we're in chat, you'll notice up the top here, we're talking to Fred. And we're in the chat tab. But there are some other tabs as well, one being files. So I can share files with Fred that we can work on together. And literally, I would just drag a file into this space, or I click on the share button here, and that will allow me to either browse my OneDrive or SharePoint or upload directly from my computer. And then we can work on those files together between myself as John and as Fred. Okay, we'll come back to chat shortly, and we'll also look at Teams shortly. Let's just jump straight away to calendar. So this is John's calendar right now. And if I just scroll up slightly, we're looking at this week, and you'll see that John's got a couple of meetings. Both of them are Teams meetings. You'll see it says Microsoft Teams meeting there on these. Now, this calendar is synchronized with Outlook. So if I had other meetings or appointments in my Outlook calendar, they would show here as well. Now, there are three ways to schedule a meeting inside Microsoft Teams. The first way, we can do it here inside Teams. So from inside the Teams calendar, I can click the new meeting button in the top right corner. And when I do that, I get a window you're probably quite familiar with if you're used to Outlook. I can add a meeting title. So let's call this a project catch-up. And I can put in some attendees. So I'm going to include Fred into my meeting here. And as I type Fred, it picks his name up. Now, if I wanted to invite someone external to my business, I can just type in their full email address, and that will add them into the meeting. I'm just going to click on Fred. I'm going to specify that I want my meeting, say, on Thursday, and we'll pick a time that works 1500. Now, there is a scheduling assistant to help you look at yours and Fred's calendar at the same time to see what their availability is. And as it stands right now, there's no issue on that particular day. Let's go back to details. You can associate this meeting to a channel inside your Teams. You'll see that in a moment. And most importantly, there's an option here, online meeting. That is turned on. That means this will be an online Teams meeting. Now, here's a feature some may or may not have. You can type in details for the meeting, but just below that, there's an add an agenda. And this is an automated tool here which uses the Microsoft Loop components. Now, we did a lunch and learn on Loop a couple of months ago. Recommend you watch that on our YouTube channel. But in here, it's created like a quick template we can use to put our agenda items in. So if I put in agenda item 1 and agenda item 2, excuse my bad spelling, I can add some additional notes and follow-up tasks as well. So let's pop just for the sake of argument here, we'll add a couple of tasks as well. And now this information, when I press up here, send, this will send the meeting invitation to Fred for the 20th of July. It's popped it into my calendar down here, and those meeting notes and that agenda and so forth, the task will be in the meeting when it launches in Teams. Okay, another way you can schedule meetings inside Teams, if we just minimize Teams and go into Outlook. Very quickly, we can spin up a Teams meeting inside Microsoft Outlook. So I'm going to click on the calendar button just up here. And I have two buttons I can use. There is a new Teams meeting button, which you can use, or you can choose new meeting. Now, effectively, they almost do the same thing. When I click this, automatically Outlook turns a meeting into a Teams meeting. Now, it may be you're doing it in person or a face-to-face meeting. You don't want this Microsoft Teams stuff here. We'll just click the button here, don't host online, and that removes that information. If you want to turn it back into a Teams meeting, we'll just click the Teams meeting button again, and the meeting link is reinserted. And again, I can put in there my meeting title. I can add my invitees from my list here, date and time, and then press send. And that will then send that as part of my Outlook calendar and synchronize to Teams. The third way, I said there was 3 ways. The third way you can set up a schedule a Teams meeting is through Outlook Web. So let's open up my browser. I'm going to use Microsoft Edge. And from here, I'm going to click on my little picker here and click on Outlook. You can also visit office.com and you'll see that little app picker there. So we're now looking at Outlook in the web. If I click on my calendar icon here, I'll be able to see my calendar again. Again, you see the same meeting sitting there. We're going to do new event, and I'm going to choose event here. Okay, again, I can give the meeting a title, a bit like we did a moment ago. I can invite my employees or external people as well to the meeting. And now this is quite clever. It's now suggesting times that myself and Fred are both available. And this is quite a useful feature. You'll see here, here's the toggle for Teams meeting. I can turn that off or I can turn that on. Now in Outlook Web, what you won't get is the Teams link information inside the description. That is added afterwards. But even so, I can still type into here and put some notes, and that will get appended. When you're ready, just hit the send button. So there are 3 ways you can schedule your meeting inside Microsoft Teams. We're going to discard that. Now, I said we'd come back to the Teams part of Teams. So let's minimize everything. Let's jump back into Microsoft Teams. So there's this icon here that says Teams, and it's called Microsoft Teams for a reason. This is the core part of Microsoft Teams, the collaboration where you can create groups of people who can work on different things, whether that be a project, whether it be a customer team or a management team, whatever that might be, something internal. You can create what are called teams, and then inside each team, you have what are called channels. Every new team you create has a channel called General. So you'll see that here on my list. Now, it may be that the order, these get added in the order that you are invited to, or the order that you create them. And you may feel, actually, I'm on the operations team, I need this at the top of the list all the time. Well, very quickly, you can drag a team in your Teams view and reorder that list quite quickly and easily. You can also, let's say I'm not really interested in what the finance team have got to say, I can hide this team as well. So I can click on the little 3 dots here, like so, and I can click on hide. And that moves the finance team to a hidden teams subfolder, which I can expand and collapse. If I want to bring it out of hidden view and show it again, I just click on show and it brings it back to the list here. Okay. So when you're inside a channel, in each channel, there is an area where you can post. And this is a way of messaging the team. It's not like chat. Chat is like WhatsApp. You send a message, you get a reply. Inside team channels, you put what are called posts. This is more like your old Facebook wall, where you put a comment or a link or whatever it might be, and people can comment or reply to that. And it's the comments and replies stay contained within the box that the post sits in. So eventually you end up with a chronological view of posts and replies. Now from here you can see we have a post button and we have an announcement button. So from here, if I just want to start a new post, I can just click here in the text, and I put a subject for my post. So let's make this, I don't know, team meeting is the subject. And I can put some text in here. So team meeting agenda to follow shortly. And I can attach that later on. And I can just post that. But before I do that, you'll see we've got a number of formatting options. We can highlight, we can put bullet lists in, indentations, rules, tables, and other bits and pieces as well. We can also add attachments. So any files you've got you want to associate with this post, you can upload. You can put some emojis or GIFs in there, and some other things like videos from Stream and so forth. If I click post, that message now appears here on site on the actual channel here, as you can see. Now, you can also edit posts. So if I go back to edit here, you'll find I can amend the post. Now, one thing I didn't highlight a second ago was the important button. If I mark this post as important, it flags it up here in red. If I click post now, you'll notice we get a red tag and a red subject and an exclamation mark, just in case anyone misses the point. So you can make things important. Now, you can also, when people start replying, you can reply to their comments as well. So one thing I want to show you before we do that, though, is a new feature in Teams. If we click in the top right corner here, there's a little button here, Open Channel Details. We want to see who's actually part of the operations team. Well, when I click on this button, we get a little pop out here that tells me all about this channel. And I can see 3 people are part of this channel. We've got Bob, Fred, and John are all part of it. So that post I've just made, that important in post there, well, Bob and Fred will be able to see this post as well. Now, you can also make a post, you can highlight it further by pinning it to this right-hand bar. So if I click on my 3 dots again and click pin, you'll see, when I click pin to confirm, that we have pinned this team meeting subject post here into the channel view here. So this is a way of surfacing information that's important and time sensitive to the team. I can also unpin as well by clicking the 3 dots and unpin it, and then that will remove it from that list there. Another thing you can do as well around posts is saving. So in addition to pinning, you might want to keep like a bookmark list of posts that are relevant to you and you're interested in. So I can click on the 3 dots here and I can save this message. Where's it gone? Well, the way you get to save messages, because there's nothing down the left-hand side here and nothing visible. If I click on my name, you'll see here there is a bookmark tab here, saved. When I click on the saved, you'll see any post that you have saved will be shown here in this list. Now, if you can't remember where that is, or if you're a bit of a keyboard jockey like I am, you can click into the search box and you can type in /saved and press enter. And that will take you straight to the saved area. So these commands here, beginning with /, you'll notice there's a number of them here. If you want to find out more about those, I believe you can press Control and dot, I think it is. Yes, Control and full stop, and also bring up a list of keyboard shortcuts of various shortcuts you can use to get different parts of the Teams application. There's quite a few there to learn if that's your thing. Okay, let's close that. If I go back to, well, I can unsave as well. That's one thing I wanted to show you. If I go into my message here, click the 3 dots, I can unsave the message. That removes it from the save list after a few seconds, and then that allows me to maintain that list and keep it relevant to me. Let's go back to my Teams. So we're still here in the operations general channel, okay? And we're in the post section. Like I said, we can post an announcement, and like I can type a headline here. I don't know how you're feeling right now, but let's go for lunch now. And I can put a subheading in as well, and I can post that. And okay, I need to have a subheading. Okay, it wants a message. So let's just post that there. There we go. All right. There we go. So there's my announcement, nice and big. And so the announcements are a good way of catching people's attention. You can also, one other final thing to mention to you as well, if we do an edit here, you can use the @mention feature as well. So if you want someone to get a notification on their desktop about this particular post or announcement, you can put the @ symbol in and you can type in their name and say, Bob, Fred, I'm really trying to grab their attention. They'll get a desktop notification to say that I've posted this announcement here. So going back up to the top of the screen here, so we're in the post section here. We can collapse this right-hand channel pop out we looked at a moment ago just by clicking the button there to make things bigger again. So we can click that to open and close that. So across the top here, we've also got files. So in the same way in chats that we said we could share files, I can also upload files here to this general folder for the team who have access to this particular channel to be able to edit. And we've already got a file in here, a Word document. If I double click on that file, it will open that document in Word Online within Teams. I don't have to open another app. I don't have to have windows floating around. I can edit this document as I make changes to it. It automatically saves. If Bob or Fred were in the document as well, I would see the cursor flagging up with their initials as to where they are and what they're editing. So we can collaborate in real time in the middle of a meeting. We can have a video or audio meeting and be working on this file at the same time. Let's close that. Now you see the little plus button here. We can add more stuff to a channel. So let me show you how we can add an individual file to the top bar here. If I click on the plus tab, and I'm going to add an Excel file. So I can type the word Excel and it will search for apps that are within the Teams environment. And here is Excel. Let's click on that. And this is now going to say to me, well, you've added the Excel app. Do you want to add an Excel file now to the bar up here? So at the moment, it's having a bit of a think about this. What I should see in a moment is a list of my SharePoint sites where I can add this particular Excel file. I would have expected that to have happened by now. I can also post to the channel about the fact I've created this new tab. So, and typical when you're doing a live demonstration, things don't always work exactly as you expect. But the principle would be that we can add a link directly to a file up here. Let's try that with a Word file in the interest of time. We just saw that work a second ago. No, okay, so we're not going to watch the spinny circle of death and take up too much of your day on that, but that can be quite useful. Another thing you can add just to whet your appetite, let's click on plus again. If you're into planning, project planning or organizing tasks, if you type in the word task when adding here, click on the top result, tasks by planner. And this will bring up a feature of Microsoft 365 called Planner and To Do. We can create a new plan. So let's call this our project plan, for example. We'll post to the channel about it. We'll click save. We now got our new tab up here, project plan, and we can create buckets. So for instance, in our project, we may have different members of the team. So we could have a management team. We could have a finance team. We add another bucket here. We could call this project delivery team. Okay. So we've got our main headings here for our tasks. I can add a task for the management. So this is to create the project plan, and that needs to be done by a certain date. We'll pick that for the 31st July, and I'm going to assign that, and here are the people that have access to my team. I'm going to assign that to Bob to get done. Now, Bob's now going to get an email. If I click add, that adds another one bit further down here. So Bob is going to get an email about this task he's been assigned, and then he'll come in here and update this particular task to say how he's doing with that. When you click into it, you can specify like progress. You can see the priority of the task as well, and also set the due dates. And a bit further down here, you can add some attachments and additional comments as well. So this is a nice way where you can create a project plan within Teams that everyone can have visibility to. You can view it as a list. You can view it as a board. You can view it in chart form, and you can view it as a schedule based on the start and end dates as well. So that's a little thing to whet your appetite that you can do here in Teams. One final one is something called lists. Again, if I just search for lists, there's an app here from Microsoft. This is where you can create interactive lists, tables. There's a whole bunch of templates that you can utilize. You may have a process that you want to convert into a Microsoft list. So if we create a list here, and we've got a number of templates here: issue tracking, employee onboarding, itinerary for an event, some type of travel request approval process, and so on. There's a whole bunch of things here, work progress tracker and so on. You can create things in here that are really colorful, interactive, and all they are is a simple table, but they enable you to get real good visuals on processes and so on. Okay, so before we jump out and go just look at something in chat, just want to show you a little button up in the top left corner here. Try the new Teams. Okay, so this is a little toggle switch. As we've mentioned in our webinar invite, there is a new version of Microsoft Teams. One of the big criticisms of Microsoft Teams we hear all the time is that it's slow, it takes up a lot of memory, it slows my computer down, I'm running out of disk space. The Teams app is not very good. That's a fact. And Microsoft have recognized that. They have now released a preview version of the new Teams. If I toggle that on, Just bear with a second, and it will close the old Teams, launch the new Teams, and we will be in. Now, if you know anything about Teams, you'll realize that actually launch Teams takes a good minute or two sometimes, and yet we are already in. We're already in Teams. In fact, my account here is just slightly in the wrong account at the moment, but we're in Teams, and the functionality is really quick there. Now, this is something that's worth pointing out. It's not immediately obvious from the demonstration here. One of the big new features of the new Teams, one of the things it solves is in the old version of Teams, you could be invited, or you can invite others into your team that are not in your organization. So for example, we create team channels that we invite our customers into. So we've got a direct relationship with our customers inside Microsoft Teams where they can message us, share with us, and we can collaborate on things. And they're private between us and that customer. The problem is with Teams at the moment is our customers external to us. So when we send that invitation, it links their teams to it, but they have to switch from their organization to our organization. And when they do that, they can no longer receive notifications about what's going on inside their team's environment. So it makes it really unhelpful to use and not very popular. With the new Teams, it allows you to switch between tenants here. I'm in PS Tech at the moment, you can see up there. If I just jump back to Extreme Training, it will automatically flick me straight back into my Extreme Training Teams with my channels and my chat that we just saw. But if someone from PS Tech messaged John here inside their Teams channel that they're sharing with John, he would get an instant notification to say, hey, John, whatever the message might be. And vice versa, if they were working inside the PS Tech channel or whatever channel you created, and Bob or Fred messaged John, for example, in their Teams, John would still get the notification. That is a real big win. It's something a lot of people have been complaining about for a number of years now. So that's a good reason to try the new Teams. We'll come back to in a minute why and how you can activate that. Let's very quickly look in chat. I just wanted to show you a few things around the chat. Now we've looked at the chat and posting in Teams. In the chat environment, when we type our message here, you'll notice there's a lot less formatting options available to you. But you can still edit messages like we just did a minute ago. We can click edit there. But one thing you do get in chat, you don't get in Teams, is something called loop components. So when we're here in our message area, there's some buttons across the bottom, and this one here is loop components. Now, again, if you haven't seen our Lunch and Learn on Loop, I recommend you watch that on YouTube. When we click on the button, we can make available a number of different things here. Let's make this a practical thing. I've got a chat here between Bob and Fred. So myself, Bob, and Fred are in this group chat. You can create a group chat by clicking on the add participants here and add people, and then you can all chat together. It's much easier than posting. And in here, we've got a voting table. I'm going to create a new one so you can see the process. I'm going to create the loop component here. I'm going to create a voting table. And what we're going to vote on, we're going to vote on, this is a topic we talked about a couple of months ago, what we're going to eat for lunch. What's my idea? Well, first of all, it has to be pizza. My second idea probably is going to be something pasta-based. And then if I'm going to add a third one here, let's just go for a barbecue. So nice and simple. I can add pros and cons. I can move these columns around or delete the columns if I don't want them. And then when I send the message, this is the key bit, send the message, it embeds the voting table here into the chat. I'm going to vote for the fact that I want a barbecue, even though I just said pizza, and I've registered my vote. Now, I'm going to jump to a different browser here, and we're going to log into office.com as Fred, and you'll see his Teams. I'll just grab Fred's password. Okay, so we're going to log in here to Microsoft 365 as Fred. And the reason I'm doing that in Firefox and not Edge is because Edge is already signed in as John. If I go into Teams here on my apps, so it just shows you can use Teams in a browser. You don't have to have it physically installed. That means it works on all sorts of platforms like Chromebooks and so forth. Just wait for it to finish loading. This is the old Teams. Okay, so we'll see here. Here's my voting table straight away that I just sent to Bob and to Fred. And if I just scroll across slightly here, you'll see, okay, that's not the one I just sent, was it? Okay, it hasn't quite come through just yet for some reason. But you'll see here a previous example of a voting table that can be used, and Fred can vote on whatever he likes. And that is immediately synchronized back to the other users in this particular chat who will see this. Okay, very good. So that's the chat. Now, I just wanted to share with you a couple of new features. I'm going to bring up some slides now to demonstrate this. So if I just flick back to my PowerPoint slides here. So, okay, let's just make sure this is working. Okay, so a new feature inside Microsoft Teams, this is not in the pre-release one, the preview one, is avatars. And this is to make meetings a bit more interesting, especially with certain audiences. Rather than having you on camera, you may want to have a digital avatar. And this is something that Teams now supports since May. You can create your own avatar. You can have up to 3 in your account. And when you're starting your meeting and pick your avatar, you can pick different backgrounds. So you'll see here, here's my avatar I've created, and I can pick a different background, and then you just hit join. Now, the avatar, the camera's not watching you and tracking you. It's working purely off of audio. So as you are speaking, its mouth and eyes are moving and reacting. And if I just go to the next slide, you'll see a still shot here of what this may look like in a meeting. You'll see there's the avatar. And on the right-hand side, I've popped out a little menu where actually there are a number of reactions that you can use to demonstrate some type of emotion during the meeting and so forth. So that's something you might want to play around with. You may find a practical use for that in your particular organization. Another thing as well that you can do in the new in Teams is not just having an avatar. You can change the background, which you're probably familiar with. Now the menus have changed slightly, hence why we're demonstrating that here. I've got a blurred background at the moment. Now, Microsoft give you a bunch of backgrounds you can apply. So here's one we made earlier with some double-sided tape and so on. So this is a corporate background we've created. This is something you may want to have for your organization. Now, notice it's mirrored on my view, but in Teams, the other people in the meeting would see it the correct way around. And you'll see here, I've got filters from Snapchat. So Microsoft are partners with Snapchat. And if you want to have a bit of fun with your meetings, you can apply different filters. So you'll see here, me with orange glasses. If I take off my real glasses, that's how that works. And there's lots of different filters you can use from Snapchat and some other ones that they've got in there as well, some developed by Microsoft and Maybelline. If you want to see me with a toadstool on my head, then there we go. That's what that looks like. Don't get used to it. So yeah, it can be quite fun. And again, with certain audiences, you may find if you're in teaching, for example, that could be a really interactive way of dealing with people inside the class or the meeting. So as we mentioned, new Teams, that little toggle in the top left corner there, if you want to play around with the new Teams, it does have to be turned on behind the scenes. It only takes a few hours. So if you'd like us to do that for your tenant and we can target it at the whole business or just make that available to a select group of people, then we can do that for you. Okay, let's stop my screen share and my PowerPoint slides here. Okay, excellent. So I hope you found that session sort of helpful. I know we jumped around a little bit in Teams, but I hope there's some value in there, getting you thinking about how I can use Teams, how it is much more than just a meeting tool compared to, say, Zoom. If you've got any questions around implementing Teams in your organization, you might just be a one-man band, or you may have many staff or departments, then if you're not sure how to roll it out or how to get it implemented, get people trained or whatever it might be, just drop us a call. You can contact us via our website at pstechnology.co.uk. You'll find our contact number and a contact form there online. And if you want the new Teams experience that we talked about and showed, again, just drop us a call and we can move that forward for you. So just to conclude, if you'd like to share a recording of this particular Lunch and Learn webinar with your team, your colleague, your friends, then please sign up for our monthly newsletter on our website, pstechnology.co.uk. And every month in the newsletter, we'll put a link to the recording of last month's Lunch and Learn session. You'll also find the library of them all on our YouTube channel at PS Tech MSP, where you can like, comment, and subscribe. So next month in our Lunch and Learn, we're going to be showing how you can boost your company efficiency by making better use of VoIP, VoIP. What is that? It's hosted telephony, telephone systems in the cloud. There's still a need for voice and phone numbers for businesses and customer service type organizations. So how can you be more efficient? We'll cover that next month. So thank you so much for joining us. Really been a pleasure. And we look forward to seeing you in a month's time. Take care.